go, baby!
Hello, all you rockers, rockettes, and everything in between. Welcome to another installment of And the Podcast Will Rock. This is the show where we take a deep dive into the catalog, the discography of one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, Van Halen. But you knew that because you're not new to the show. Of course not. But if you are new to the show, welcome. This is a show where we talk about Van Halen songs, and we do it one song at a time with a spin of the wheel. I am one of your co-hosts, Mark Kamier. With me, as always, Corey Morissette. Corey, winter just will not let up down here. How's it going up there?
You know, we actually had a major storm on the western part of the province. Power was knocked out for 2 days. There was 6 feet of snow. Here where I live, there's not a lick of snow left. It was +7 in Celsius. So just a gorgeous day. But if I can, Mark, right off the hop, I want to recognize an awful anniversary for us folks here in Saskatchewan. And in Saskatchewan, in Canada in general, but in Saskatchewan, hockey is king. And all of our kids play hockey. And we have a junior A hockey league in Saskatchewan called the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League. We have a team here in Weyburn in the city that I live in. And there's one in Humboldt. And folks might remember 4 years ago today, was the Humboldt bus crash. For the folks who don't know, it was a bus load of junior A kids who were, 17, 18, 19 to 20 years old, hopping on a bus. They were heading up north for a playoff series because the playoffs are right around April. And they were on the bus, and a truck driver blew through a stop sign, hitting the bus, completely demolishing it. Half the team died. Coaches, support staff, the radio broadcaster, the trainer, they all perished. And the survivors, a lot of them left paralyzed or, with traumatic brain injuries and just horribly scarred from the whole event. And it really hit home for a lot of folks here in Saskatchewan. And on this date, especially for folks around these parts, we always leave our hockey sticks outside the door for the boys, expecting them to come back home and pick up the sticks and play a game. So we all have our sticks out here tonight. I'm raising a glass to the victims of the Humboldt bus crash. A really cool thing, 2 years later, Metallica was playing in Saskatoon, and James Hetfield and the boys dedicated Nothing Else Matters to the Humboldt Broncos. And that was just a really nice gesture. And, obviously it's a very bad anniversary to be celebrating. I just wanted to acknowledge it if I seem a little maybe more down than normal, because it really hits home for a lot of us. I met a lot of those kids. We cover all their games, and, I have kids. Yeah, kids playing hockey in this province is a major thing. So, God bless you. We'll keep the sticks out for you, boys, and we all remain Humboldt strong.
Oh man, no, I can't even imagine. That's a beautiful tradition, though. I wish we were a little bit more hockey savvy down here in the South. Now, I mean, we enjoy here in Nashville. We enjoy the Nashville Predator team, despite the heartbreak. Usually, season after season, with a few exceptions, they've done pretty well. But I love that, and I love hockey. Basic hockey towns, man. In Canada, it just seems like if you're a hockey fan, that's your paradise. And so I'm with you, man. I'm with everybody. Big support. God bless everybody. And but not to downplay it whatsoever, but there's another sort of a little bit that's more in news, that's a little bit more relevant, at least to our show. You were telling me that there's some Van Halen news. Can you share with the crowd what the news is?
Absolutely. There was actually quite a few Van Halen stories this week. Wolfgang was nominated for a Grammy. So he was at the Grammys on Sunday. Unfortunately, he didn't win. But Mammoth, WVH, ended up having to cancel the last 6 dates on their Young Guns tour due to COVID. So that's unfortunate for fans who had tickets for that. And I think, Mark, there might have been coming your way. I was bugging you that you should get on the trolley and go check out Wolfie and Mammoth. And now I don't think they're coming anymore.
No, I don't think they are anymore. I haven't checked the updated list, but I'm not quite sure they're going to make it over here, and that's a shame. I did, however, see Wolfie's the fact that he didn't win. He still made a post about not winning and it was very humble, and it was very very, very nice. And you got to give it up to the guy for not being a jerk about it. It's like, why didn't I should have won. I should, you know what, Wolfie, you probably should have. But no, he was very, very humble and nice about it. So big ups to Wolfie on that.
Absolutely.
And what else? What else is going on in Van Halen news?
This is really cool. The city of Pasadena is going to be naming a new public stage after Van Halen. And this just fits. If anyone out there has read Greg Renoff's book, Van Halen Rising, a tremendous read. I'm almost finished my read through here. But, of course, Van Halen formed around Pasadena, played a ton in Pasadena. There was on the city's website, they asked residents to propose a new name. Eddie Van Halen was the overall choice by 10 times the next possible name, right? So it was going to be Eddie Van Halen stage, but then the Van Halen family had actually asked that the stage be named after the entire Van Halen band, because they were all Pasadena boys. David Lee Roth was big there. Of course, his dad was a doctor there and stuff. So it's going to be Van Halen stage. And I think that is a really cool way to honor Van Halen. The really cool way for the city of Pasadena to do it, because they're very much a Pasadena band. So good on you, Pasadena. That's a great choice. And that's now on the bucket list. I want to visit Pasadena and go check out Van Halen stage.
That's right. Yeah, I haven't been to California in some time, and I definitely haven't been to Pasadena, but now I have a reason. Now I have a big reason. And now I wonder how coveted that stage is going to become. I wonder if it's going to have a new legacy just with the name change. I imagine groups, different bands and acts going, if we hit up California, we got to go to Pasadena. We got to play the Van Halen stage. It's like, it's going to be a big deal. You have your Whiskey a Go-Go, and now you've got your Van Halen stage. I know, 2 different cities, but you get what I'm saying. Legacy stages.
And Van Halen landmarks, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You can even throw Gazzari's in there too, because that's where they were playing before they got the whiskey. So in kind of the progression of Van Halen, it was backyards in Pasadena, and then like Gazzari's, and then the whiskey, and then they became the Van Halen we all know and love.
Of course, yeah. So be on the lookout, you guys. Be on the on the up and up on playing the Van Halen stage, because it's coming at you. I can't wait to see a show there. It would be cool to play a show there, maybe one day. Who knows what the future will bring? The only thing that the only thing that we know that knows what the future will bring is the wheel. That's right, the wheel for the show. We spin the wheel, and the wheel determines what song we will cover in the Van Halen catalog. We never do this ahead of time. We never know. Again, if you're new to the show, this is what the show is. We spin the wheel. The wheel has every single track of Van Halen in the studio, with the exception of the instrumental tracks, but we usually cover those if it ties into the song we land on. But we just talk about the song, and that's the show. So if you wonder how we do this show, that's how we do it. We don't have any preconceived notions of what song we're going to cover. It's all up to fate. It's all up to the gods, the rock gods, or in this case, it's really up to the wheel. And sometimes the wheel is kind. Sometimes the wheel is, I won't say unkind. I'll just say sometimes the wheel is funny. That's the best word to describe it. Corey, do you have a particular track or maybe album that you want to try and manifest for this week?
I do. And it's only because I'm almost finished Van Halen Rising again. And Greg Renoff just covered the period where they recorded Van Halen 1. And they go into great detail of how they did it. Like, on day 1, they cut these 4 tracks. On day 2, they cut the rest of the tracks. And then it was like overdubs, little things like that. And at the end of 2 weeks, Van Halen 1 was done. At a time where Rumors by Fleetwood Mac was months and months overdue and cost, like $400,000 or whatever it was. Van Halen 1 cost $54,000. Like it was next to nothing. And it's become this iconic debut album, one of the greatest, if not the greatest debut album of all time. So we only got 2 tracks so far from Van Halen 1. I'm really kind of jonesing from something from that album. What do you think, Mark?
I mean, that's kind of the quintessential album. I mean, that's not only is it literally the album that started it all, it's really the album I can think of that started it for, my fandom per se, even though I was listening to other songs that they did growing up, because, I am of a certain age, and at the point to where I was coming up, they had already been well established. But in my journey through rock and through their catalog, most of the songs that I identify. Most of the songs that I got into the most came from Van Halen 1 and then subsequently Van Halen 2. So I look at both of those albums as just one giant long album as far as I'm concerned, because they fit so well. I would not be angry at some Van Halen 1 stuff. So maybe the wheel will be kind. I'm gonna help try and manifest that for you, Corey, because there are some bangers, of course, as we know, some hits on that album we haven't covered yet. So I would love to hear them. Yeah, I think.
And I agree with you.
Let's do it.
I agree with you when you say Van Halen 2. It feels very much like almost like a double side, like a double album with Van Halen, because a lot of those songs they had in the hopper, they just kind of put, this half on Van Halen 1 and the other half on Van Halen 2. So they're very much closely connected in that regard.
They feel like it. They feel like two feels like an extension of one. Not that they're copying the same formula. It's just, no, this is the formula. Here you go. Van Halen 2 to me sounds like we didn't have enough time or money to put these songs on our first album. So here you go. Here it is. We had these ready to just bang out. And again, not mad at it. So let's see if the wheel wants to be kind and give us some Van Halen 1 goodness.
She hasn't listened to us yet. Yeah, probably. the wheel hasn't listened to us yet, but we've been on a pretty good run. Even the songs that we were kind of, we were still positive on, but maybe lower positive, like Not Enough from Balance. We're still, What Dreams Were Made Of, but we haven't had one that we downvoted here in a long time. So it kind of worries me when we get to one of those, but I don't know. I'm feeling good tonight. We are going to go here. We're going to hit shuffle a few times, like mixing that order up here. And then we're going to take it to Sammy Hagar.
Here we go.
All right, here we go. Coming down to, it's a Dave track, but it's not from Van Halen 1. Me Wise Magic.
It's Me Wise Magic.
Oh, we almost had Fire in the Hole. And one of our newer listeners on the show is dying to get a Van Halen 3 song because he wants to rip you a new one. He's a big fan of Kerry Sharoni in that album.
Well,
and I thought, we're so close to it, but instead we get Me Wise Magic from Best of Volume 1. Mark, this is kind of a landmark album for you.
It is. This is kind of the album that really solidified my fandom for Van Halen. This was also the album that I've notably talked about. This is the one that inspired me to pick up guitar and learn how to play. I knew it was an unattainable goal to learn to play like Eddie himself. That's fine. I was totally fine with it. I said, but I at least want to play efficient enough to where I can be taken seriously as a guitar player. And this was the album that did it. So naturally, this song is very much in my wheelhouse because it was very much featured on Best Of. And I played that whole album to death. So I'm very familiar with this track. Yourself?
Oh, very much so. And this was recorded in such a weird time for Van Halen because Van Halen and Sammy were pretty much on the outs. They'd done the song for Twister, Humans Being. And then Sammy was kind of out, and they started working with Dave on new material. And this is one of the two Dave songs that were on this album. The other one being Can't Get This Stuff No More. Me Wise Magic was released as a single on November 20th, produced by Glenn Ballard, who fans might remember co-wrote and produced Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
Oh, great album.
Oh, and a classic album, but Glenn Ballard working with Van Halen at this era kind of seems like a natural fit, doesn't it?
I don't know about natural, but it definitely it speaks more to his dynamic as a producer and as a songwriter that he'd be able to go from one extreme to the next. And that's not even to say that Alanis and Van Halen are completely opposite of the spectrum, because they're not, but they're not the same whatsoever. Alanis, that album is definitely of its time. Hell, it helped define the era, I would argue. Whereas Van Halen, during that time, but they were already Van Halen. They already had their formula. They already had their sound. They're well established. So yeah, it's very an interesting sort of dynamic between the two.
And you had talked earlier, Mark, about how we don't do any prep leading into this thing. And one of the biggest complaints from people who hate us is it sounds like we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. It's because we don't do any prep, and we didn't do any prep for this. We just kind of fired up and let it go. But just a couple of tidbits, and I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong. But I know I think Eddie had called this the nickname for the demo that this song was based on, the Three Faces of Seamus, because it has three sections that with completely different vibes happening. So I remember that, and I remember I think Glenn Ballard wrote the initial lyrics, but then David Lee Roth had to kind of rewrite them in his own voice, which David Lee Roth is a tremendous lyricist. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But it's such a weird time. Like, I know they kind of reached out to Dave and said, "Hey, we're doing a greatest hits," and he kind of he wanted some input because a lot of those tracks would be coming from his era in the band, and that kind of led to the record company kind of reaching out to Dave saying, "Hey, we might have an opportunity here to get you on a couple of tracks." And there was that whole thing that happened. We know, is Dave permanently joining the band at this point, and there was that whole issue with the at MTV or at the Grammys or whatever it was. I think it was MTV, where Roth came out and with the other guys in the band and kind of alluded to maybe a little bit of a reunion, and that pissed Eddie off to the point where David was booted out of the band again.
I believe it was MTV, because I think I remember seeing like a special about that, like one of those TV specials where they do retrospects of like these funny things that happened in rock music, whatever. It's like, here's one where Dave alludes to a reunion, and Eddie's like, "No, we're not doing that." Yeah, I believe it was MTV, like one of the award shows, perhaps.
So yeah, that was actually in September 1996 when David Lee Roth joined the Van Halen brothers and Michael Anthony on stage to present an award, I think it was, at the MTV Video Music Awards. And then that pissed off Eddie so bad that any kind of reunion with David Lee Roth was suddenly off the table, and they ended up going to Gary Cherone. So really, really interesting era in Van Halen history.
And upon hindsight, do we ask, was that the right move or what? Who knows the answers to these questions? It's just, it happened. That's all we could take away from it, is that it doesn't matter if it was the right move. It was just the move that happened. So we take that for what it's worth. But what do you say we fire up Me Wise Magic?
Absolutely. This is Me Wise Magic off of Best of Volume 1 from 1996. All right, what do you think? I love that ramp up, right? You start off with just a nice little guitar part, and then it just slowly gets darker and gets darker and gets darker and gets heavier. And then you're going to get this big explosion here coming off. That's just kind of classic Van Halen.
Of course, yeah, they have to build it up dramatically every once in a while. I'm reminded that back in the day when people would used to go to places like Sam Ash Music or Guitar Center, and you wanted to try out a new guitar, you have to have some riffs in your arsenal that you can play. So you can, for one reason, you want to play some songs just to get the particular sound that you're looking for out of a particular guitar or maybe the amp. But also, let's just face facts. You're doing it also because you're just showing off in front of people. It's like, oh, listen to what I could do on this guitar. And I'm reminded that at one point, years ago, I think I did know this opening riff, or maybe I did like a variation of it because I didn't know it perfectly, but I knew it enough to where surely people will recognize this is Me Wise Magic, or maybe they won't. Who cares? And this was one of my little riff arsenals that I would bust out if I was out in public playing like a new guitar, just to play a simple riff or whatever, just to get the feel of what the amp was going to sound like or the guitar. So yeah, I'm just suddenly just hit with this wave of nostalgia just now. But I've always loved this opener. It's so good.
know what you're thinking. What you're thinking is easy to see. I know what you're dreaming. I have those same dreams.
All right. Again, you got Dave. And you know, he knows not to reach too high, right? He's nice and low at his register, kind of fitting the tone of the song. But this is very much lyrically kind of a song about, I don't know how you explain it, kind of like religious belief and superstition, kind of, isn't it?
A little bit. It's also I have to point out, this is, if you're listening to this album, the whole second half is all Sammy tunes, right? And then if you happen to just skip over Can't Get This Stuff No More, and you go straight into Me Wise Magic there, suddenly, wait, you might be in the middle of thinking like, oh, this must be another Sammy tune. And then here's Dave. You're like, well, that's not what's happening right now. And he's not even singing the way he normally does. He's throwing you off with his little lower register. So if you're in the middle of hearing what you think is a round of Sammy tunes, all of a sudden, boom, there's Dave in his lower register. And they used to always trip me up, like, what the hell am I hearing right now? And it took me forever to realize, oh, wait, that is Dave. And I had to point that out.
Well, absolutely. And you equate Dave to kind of the fun party rock stuff. I know he's definitely had some heavier stuff in the catalog, but overall, I think if you're a casual fan of Van Halen and you're listening to songs like Dance the Night Away or Jump, or Panama, right? They're fun kind of party type songs. And here you're getting this very deep, I know what you're thinking. Like it's very kind of dark. And I kind of dig this direction for Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
He's definitely going for, he's going for something a little bit deeper in this one for sure. It's not just on the surface sort of content as we're used to hearing from Dave, like, as you say, in the party rock sort of atmosphere. No, in this one, he actually is, he's, dare I say, he's kind of going for some more of like kind of deep Sammy Hagar type lyric, or maybe not, maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but I'm just saying he's reaching out. He's reaching for something a little bit more than what we're used to hearing. So I think that's impressive. I'm
going to take you to task on that because Sammy doesn't write about anything deep. Sammy writes about bullshit.
I would. Why can't this be love, man?
Pound cake.
Okay, well, I'll give you a pound cake, but
up for breakfast.
Look, you know what? We'll get there when we get there. All right, let's just do that. And I might eat my words.
Love
later.
Walks In is about his alien abduction. For Christ's sake, Mark.
But When It's Love is about it's about love, man.
I get it. If you're a ballad guy, that's probably the best one they've done. And lyrically, it's probably his best one with Van Halen. But God, as a lyricist, to me, it's night and day. I don't think Sammy Hagar holds a candle to David Lee Roth. It's to me, it's the same separation between Sammy's a vocalist and Dave is a vocalist. Like they're night and day. Sammy is tremendous. Dave is Dave. Good, not great. Sammy, lyricist, good, not great. Dave, transcendent.
I mean, that's that could be a further debate, and I'm sure we'll keep having it as the show rolls on. But that's fine. It's cool.
I can't wait till we get to some more Sammy stinkers like Inside. Remember that one? You weren't a fan of those lyrics, were you?
No, I wasn't.
All right, let's keep going. Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. You get the Michael Anthony led high harmony, Do You Believe, with Dave coming in with Don't You Trust Me, Me Wise Magic. And, I never understood the lyrics to Me Wise Magic when I was first listening to the song back in 96. But, with a little more context, being an older fella as I am right now, reaching to the feet of God, looking for a sign, like it's very much religious belief. And so Me Wise Magic makes more sense to me now listening to it.
Yeah. Me Wise Magic, Owl Baby. You know, I mean, Owl Baby.
Well, Owl Baby.
Owl Baby. Oh, I see. Okay, I thought it was an owl. All right, trying to read the lyrics at the same time because it occurs to me I had forgotten exactly what the lyrics were because it's been a while since I've listened to this. But you're right. It is. It's very, like I said, he's actually saying something coherent, and he has something that he's actually trying to get across. And this is very, very much of the religious variety. Was this during a time where did Dave go through like a sort of like a spiritual crisis at some point?
You know, I got to read Crazy from the Heat and find out. I don't know much about Dave during this period, other than I liked, a lot of his solo tunes. But after I'm finished with Greg Renoff's book, I'm digging into Crazy from the Heat. So hopefully he'll give us a little insight into his mindset into this time. But
yeah, or maybe he wasn't. But yeah, like maybe he just had like some sort of like clarity or like spiritual sort of awakening, not necessarily going full religion, but because this song does seem like it has a bit of a spiritual context to it. I mean, he talks about Zen and, he says a Buddhist riff for your inner ear later in the song. And so, yeah, I wonder if maybe that's what he was going for in this one. It certainly sounds like it.
Absolutely. And I just want to throw this out here because Glenn Ballard wrote the original lyrics. It's a very David Lee Roth thing to do, isn't it? To take the guy who co-wrote Jagged Little Pill, one of the biggest albums of all time, and throw his lyrics out and say, no, I'm going to put my own spin on it. I'm David fucking Lee Roth.
It needs a little bit more Roth, man. A little bit more Roth. Like it needs a little bit more Me Wise Magic. Maybe that's why it's called that.
In fairness, I'm sure it was just kind of like temp lyrics or like nothing really set in stone. But if I was presented a song from Glenn Ballard in '96 after Jagged Little Pill, I'm like, I'm just going to record this. Yeah, I'm not going to change a word.
It's like I might not like fully agree with the context, but it's like it's good enough to record. We're doing it. Here you go.
Yeah. And for people who don't remember 95, 96, Jagged Little Pill was probably the biggest album on the planet. And in a very, very long time, like that thing was a monster.
If you ever know a single Alanis Morissette song, chances are you're remembering one from the album Jagged Little Pill. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Fun fact, I'm related to her.
Are you really?
She is my 8th cousin. And even though I'm Corey Morissette, she's Alanis Morissette, and we spell our last names differently. Mm-hmm. She dropped an R. And my grandpa tells me that the Eastern Morissettes were too stupid to spell the last name correctly, so they always misspelled it with only one R. And so that's why the last names don't match up, but I guess technically we are related. So Alanis, if you're listening, buddy, I could use a loan. Like, come on, help some family out here. Like Mark and I are doing this for free. We're not getting any sponsorship dollars here. You can send a couple grand my way. I'd sure appreciate it.
Same tale as old as time, East Side and West Side, always duking it out.
All right, let's keep rolling. Do you like how Dave's doing those verses there? Like, don't you trust me? Like really low and almost kind of speaking it there.
If I'm being completely honest, no, because it just doesn't feel like I think I get why, or at least I think I get why he's doing it, but it's not really giving me the sense of Dave. Like I said, when I was listening to it when I was a kid, I didn't know that was him until he came through to the in the chorus, and even then, when I was listening to it, going like, who is this person? It's not Sammy. Who is this person trying to sound like Dave? And like I would find out later, it's like, no, that was Dave, you dummy. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, why did he sound so weird in that song? But you gotta change it up every once in a while. Otherwise, you're just gonna sound stale. So I think I get why he's doing it. Maybe as you mentioned, like maybe because this song was going a certain way at one point, maybe they just felt like just keep keep the tones this way, and we'll worry about it, the rest of it in post or something. I don't know.
I have a theory. I'm going to speculate here and probably piss off some people, but there's very religious connotation to these lyrics, right? So it's almost like he's playing a character. Like the narrator of the song is very much like, don't you trust me? I feel you're green. I know what you need. That almost sounds like kind of a religious charlatan, like these guys who get on TV and say, you know, Jesus commands that you give me $20 billion so I can buy a new airplane. You know, guys like that. Almost a Jesus He Knows Me type from like the Genesis song. I think maybe this is just the narrator of the song being very dark and being, I know what you need, don't you trust me kind of vibe.
You know what? I think you're right. The more I'm looking into it and the more I hear it and listen to your perspective on it, I think maybe you're onto something with that one. So yeah, okay.
I guarantee you, if I'm wrong, someone's going to tell me.
Someone's going to tell you. It's just like, you didn't read the 17th book where they dive into this song specifically. It's called Me Wise Magic, the book. Yeah. Like, no, we must have missed that one.
Do your fucking research. Well, we're not
historians, dude.
We're not
we
historians.
Forgot to mention we're not historians.
Yeah. We pulled this off of a fucking little computerized wheel. And actually some guy today on Twitter is like, I thought for all this time it was an actual wheel on your wall. I'm like, no, but that's cool. We should have maybe built a giant wheel and put all the songs on there. But
that's going to be in your background from now on. Or maybe mine. Maybe I think we have the supplies. I could make a wheel.
There you go. You got room there, Mark.
There you go.
All right, let's keep going.
I feel you grin. I know what you need. Just listen to me. My words are missing you. I'm fortune go,
See through my eyes again. I think it's the narrator of the song, right? Lyrically, it's kind of leading down that road. But all I keep thinking is, if I'm listening to this in '96 and I'm a big Van Halen fan, and all of a sudden Dave's back and this is what they're pumping out, I'm excited.
Cookie. Yeah,
that's right.
And it might be hard to hear in the mix, but underneath the background vocals and everything that Dave is doing up front, Eddie is throwing some fire in the riffs underneath everything. It may be hard to hear, like I say, because he's not really focused on the rhythm. The rhythm section is at the forefront, but if you listen closely, you can hear him sort of kind of go off just a little bit, give you like a little bit of a tease, something that Eddie tends to do from time to time before he rips into like a really heavy solo. He'll play the main riff, but then he'll throw a little ornamentation as well, as to, you know, just to give it a little bit of extra flavor. And there's a lot of extra flavor happening if you really listen to this chorus underneath the rhythm section. Just want to throw that out there.
Well, thanks for bringing that up, because I was so focused on Dave and the lyrics of the song and kind of digging the groove that I wasn't really listening to the band so much. So fortunately, this is a really long song. It's over 6 minutes. So we have 3:23 left to go. So I have ample opportunity to check out the band here.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it'll happen again.
Zen, headed your way. You'll get it halfway down the interstate. 4 days from now, it all goes clear. A Buddhist river.
I don't mean to stop it again so soon, but a little Zen headed your way. You'll get it halfway down the interstate. 4 days from now, it all blows clear. A Buddhist rift for your inner ear. I love that. That's just a great lyricist doing a fantastic job.
I didn't realize Leonard Cohen did guest vocals on this song.
It is kind of Leonard Cohen inspired, isn't it?
just in the way he's it seems like he's going for with that real low register.
Hey, it's working for me anyway.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got. It's like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, Dave. Okay.
There's a missed opportunity. Van Halen 3, you should have maybe been Leonard Cohen with the band.
Man, that would have been something. I guarantee you, no one would have liked it, but I would have been like, what a bold move, man.
Man, you want to talk lyrics? You get Leonard Cohen in your band writing shit for you, right? Like, holy cow.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mark. I saw you nodding there. What did you think of that solo section?
I think that solo section is possibly, here's a hot take, possibly one of Eddie's greatest solos that he's ever done. And unfortunately, the mix does not allow you to fully invest in it because it's kind of low. The guitar tones are kind of low. It's just over. There's an overpowering rhythm section, and I'm not knocking Alex and I'm not knocking Michael. I would never. But the mix of this recording, you can't really get the full scope of what he's doing unless you are just like really listening for it. Luckily, I was really listening for it because I had a feeling based on my previous comment about the ornamentation and the riff he was playing and how it's like you might not be able to hear it unless you listen closely. I worried that when the solo came back in town, and again, I know this song, I've heard it before, but I had forgotten that the mix sounded this way. So he's modulating. He is using like all that entire fretboard is just his bitch, basically. But my problem is you can't really decipher a lot of it because of the mix.
I was going to comment on that, and I don't know. I thought maybe it was my headphones because usually Eddie is so upfront on his solo, right? And whenever he does the rhythm underneath, it's underneath, and it complements the song. And I think of a song like Pound Cake where he plays the rhythm underneath he's just playing the riff again, that underneath, but it's like at a perfect volume that the solo rides on top of it perfectly. And here, you're right, they were kind of competing against each other, and I thought that was kind of weird. I thought it was maybe my headphones here. I'm only using these little skull candy headphones. They're not great by any means. Right. So I thought, we'll see if Mark maybe picked up on that too. And it turns out you did.
It's the mix, yeah.
Interesting. And again, the guy producing this record produced Jagged Little Pill, so he knows what he's doing.
Maybe it's sometimes producers, when they're working in maybe not like their home studio or maybe something of that nature, sometimes can affect the product sometimes. But I don't know. I don't know if that's the case here.
Have you recorded in a studio? Would that be a case? Because I imagine they recorded this at 5150.
I mean, I haven't done like extensive recordings, like full EPs or anything like that, but I can tell you, I have listened to guys who are notable producers, and when they are not in their home studio, it doesn't matter who they're recording, the difference in the sound quality definitely shows. And I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's just they're not using their home base, so maybe it has something. I don't know. That would definitely be a technical question for the producers out there. You guys, please chime in if you're listening, producers. Does the home base versus not home base have anything to do with some of the recording quality in the mix?
I would be very interested in that answer because you hear different things. Like I know a lot of guys, go to Little Rock and Vancouver, especially in this period, 80s, 90s. That was a big studio, but I think back to a band like AC/DC who went to Hawaii to record Back in Black, and they had a miserable time there because you listen to Brian Johnson, there was bugs everywhere, and the heat was awful, and the studio was a dump, and all they did was record the most successful rock album of all time. So
yeah, and it sounds great too. It still sounds great. So yeah, it's like that's I didn't know that story. So that's very interesting that they would. But I mean, look, it happens that way sometimes. Sometimes bands will go into the studio thinking, and they're having a great time, and they think what they're pumping out is something great until they hear the final product, and it's like that's not exactly what we had in mind. But all right.
it's weird. And going back to AC/DC, like, they were in Hawaii. So after recording, they hit the beach and drank all night. Like they had the time of their life. But, it wasn't, Electric Lady Studios in New York or Little Rock in Vancouver, kind of these legendary studios that people gravitate to, or Sound City back in LA, those kind of things. So, all right, we still got 2:26, Mark. So let's keep her rolling. You want to talk about extended outro? They started ending the song at the 2-minute mark. And just wow, a big denouement on Me Wise Magic. Mark, your thoughts on the end of the track there?
Yeah, well, I'm always happy to hear the opening riff come back. That was a nice little callback, and then to end the song with it, I think was probably the right call. But you're right, it didn't dawn on me until we started going through that and go, oh no, this one's really long, and I think I remember why. And there it was. It's like this long outro.
Oh, that was crazy. They were starting to wrap it up at the 2-minute mark, and then for 2 minutes, and you could even hear it kind of winding down. I'm like, this is the longest fade out in history. But they did throw a couple other things in there. But maybe it didn't have to be 6:09 in length. They could have maybe shaved 1:30 off of that pretty easy, I think.
Probably so. But it's Van Halen. They're going to do what they want. If they want it to go as long as that long or longer, they're going to make it happen.
You're exactly right. So Mark Kmeyer, Me Wise Magic from 1996, Best of Volume 1. What are you thinking? Are we dreaming another dream? Is this dream over, or is this what dreams are made of?
Well, I know it's been a while since we've heard that particular track in terms of The Dream Is Over. But look, I'm just going to be transparent with you guys. This is not by any shot my favorite Van Halen song. Is nowhere near. This is one of the tracks that, frankly, when I would jam this album, the Best Of album, I would pass over because it's way too long. And I'm not against long Van Halen songs as long as they're intriguing. And I guess that's just the problem. This one just never held my attention, whether it's because it's the mix sounds the way it does, or because to me it just didn't feel. I don't know what the decision was with David Lee Roth with the vocal style. I have to commend him though for trying something different, because it's definitely different from what we would normally hear from a David Lee Roth song. I can say that now, being, you know, older and wiser. Whereas when I'm a kid listening to it, I go like, that's not my Van Halen, to hell with it. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say it's not necessarily the song or one of many songs that I would classify as, oh, that's a great David Lee Roth led Van Halen tune. And the fact that I'm now remembering the mix, especially during Eddie's solo, which I still will maintain, that solo is one of, I think, his best. And you just can't feel the full effect of it because the mix just is not so good. And that really kills the song for me. On top of the fact that you're right, Corey, this did not need to be a 6-minute song. I'm not crazy about David Lee Roth's Leonard Cohen impression that he's doing in this song. I'm sorry, Dave, if that's not what you were really going for, but that's how it came across. And again, kudos for trying something different, but for me, it just didn't work. And thus, Me-Wise Magic, as familiar as I am with it, and as much as I love the album that you find it on, this is where the dream is over for me in terms of how this song goes. That is just my perspective. But Corey, the true question is the dream over for you, or is Me-Wise Magic truly the magical dream?
I think you're on crack. I don't know if you hit your head at some point this week, but you're just so far out to lunch. It's not even funny. I love this song. Everything about this worked for me. Yeah, it's maybe a little too long. And yeah, maybe the mix is a little wonky on the solo section, but the band sounds great. Michael Anthony's hitting those high harmonies. Fantastic. Dave is in his wheelhouse and he's telling a story. We have a narrator here telling a story lyrically, which we don't get in a lot of early Van Halen. Their songs are about fucking or drinking or partying and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. We're talking about religion and we're talking about belief and superstition and, God and all this other stuff. And, David is a great lyricist and he's able to ride that line, I think, between headier subjects and party stuff. And he does it here. And I like the Leonard Cohen impersonation because that's in his wheelhouse. If he started singing like Freddie Mercury, that's when his vocal stylings fall apart for me because he just can't do it. But this is in his wheelhouse. And so it was working for me. I love Me-Wise Magic. This is one of my favorite tracks out of the three. And I'm really kind of a fan of all of them. I don't want to tip my hand on the other two so much, but, I do not skip Me-Wise Magic when it comes up on shuffle or when I was playing the album or the CD, because to me, this is a really, really solid song. And like I said, if it was 96 and I was a fan of Van Halen and they're going back to Dave and this is what they were going to pump out, I would be 100% in favor of it. Love this song. Love this song. Were you hit on the head at some point this week? Did Christy just up and whack you for some reason and not knock something loose up there?
My getting hit on the head has nothing to do with it. But look, there's a lot to love about this song. As I said, that opening and also closing riff of Eddie picking away, that I love that. That's absolutely something great. Again, his solo is one of the best solos I think he's ever done. I just wish it had been brought out more. I wish the song had been this song felt like a Frankenstein's monster of like two different songs put together,
almost three. But like I said, okay, Eddie mentioned there was like three, so yeah, absolutely, it was kind of pieced together.
So I think maybe a lot of that has to do with it as well. Not to say that they didn't find a way to blend them, because, obviously they did. Otherwise, this would just be incoherent nonsense. And it's not that. So I'm not going to call the song incoherent nonsense. I would not put this in the worst of category. Not really. I don't think that depends on how long that list might go. But if it were to go there, it would be near the top where it's like it's not the worst. It's just if we have only so much room, we have to put this over here somewhere. Sure. But again, just on the whole, for me, it just kind of doesn't work. And it never fully worked on the whole as well. And maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. And, you know, we do have people who love to remind us of how wrong we are. And if you guys out there want to let us know how wrong we are, I say how wrong I am about this song, please do let us know. You can hit us up on our Twitter at Podcast Will Rock. Hell, go to the website and the podcastwillrock.com, where all of our shows are posted there. Merch is posted there. When we have news, we'll post that there. But go to the Twitter. You know, we always put up a rockin' poll, as I call it. And I'm sure this question will be brought up as to whether Me Wise Magic is what dreams are made of, or is it over? And I'd be very curious to hear the feedback from that. But please do hit us up on Twitter. Get with us. Let us know how you feel. Corey, if they want to reach you directly, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CD Morset. And you mentioned the poll, and I'm very curious to hear how this poll is going to be, because we're split. Is the audience going to be split on this one too? How do you think they voted on last week's song AFU from OU812?
I mean, I'm going to assume the higher percentage, because I only saw it just briefly. So as far as where we're at right now, I'm going to assume AFU probably got the overall positive, but I know a large percentage was going no. And I suspect the Cult of Mariano has something to do with that.
And it's growing. Actually, 74% in favor. What dreams are made of. 26%. This dream is over.
Yeah.
I know we had some fans say, I get it. You know, this isn't the best Sammy track. This isn't the best Sammy album. Both those things are true. But still, 74-26 is one of the bigger swings that we've had lately anyway, since we started really promoting the polls. So that's interesting. I'm really curious to hear or to see what kind of split we get on Me Wise Magic. Are they Team Corey in that this song rocks, or are they Team Mark in that this song sucks? I'm dying to know.
It's it's finally happened once again. It's very rare, at least in the shows that we've done, where it's Team Corey, Team Mark, because normally Corey and I are pretty we're pretty on par with how we feel about certain tracks, but every once in a while we get a split. And here we are yet again. So are you going to go in favor with me and say it's like it's not a great song, so you know it's not what the dreams are made of, or will you follow the Cult of Mariano and just say like, oh, it's absolutely the best, just to be a contrarian? And no offense to Team Corey, but
it's a very small team, I can tell you that. But I do want to shout out a few of our Twitter fans, and I actually need to apologize to one of them because I've been mispronouncing his name this entire time. Brian Peterkin. I've been saying his name wrong, and I apologize for that, Brian. He's a fellow Canuck from Ottawa, loves CFL football, big fan of Van Halen, likes to comment on the show. And I want to shout him out because he's such a fantastic guy. As well as guys like Joel Scott Zerns. I want to throw this. Tom Armbruster actually has reached out, wants to be on the show. We're going to get him on as soon as we can. Mark Fuller is the guy who wrote and said this whole time he thought it was an actual wheel on the wall. Hate to disappoint you, Mark, but no, it's a virtual wheel. But we have a lot of people that Keith McCoy, who wrote a book on Stampede Wrestling, which I've ordered. I had to order it from England because I couldn't find it in North America, but I can't wait to read that. He wants to be on the show. I can't wait to get Heath on there. Michael Green is the fellow who wants to bust your balls over Gary Sharon and Van Halen 3. So I can't wait for that whenever we roll a Van Halen 3 song.
Sorry, Michael, we ran out of time.
We got a lot of great people listening to the show, and I just want to shout them out. And of course, shout out the fine folks on the Deep Dive Podcasting Network, because so many great shows going on that network right now. You can check all the links on our website and just search for the Deep Dive Podcasting Network on Twitter. You can get all these great shows like Skinner Reconsidered and the Deep Purple podcast and the Uriah Heat podcast and Metal Gods and all these great shows. They're doing a lot of cross promotion, and pretty soon, starting in June, I think we're going to start cross promoting with them as well. We got a lot of those guys coming on, and Sean Geek and Fast Fret. There's another podcast that I would highly recommend. They just recorded a show with Eric Senich from the Van Halen News Desk about 5150, which I can't wait for. It hasn't dropped yet as we're recording this, but it's going to very soon. And I can't wait because Eric is a great guest on their show. And he's going to be a guest on our show on our 25th extravaganza. Eric Senich from the Van Halen News Desk will be here, and I cannot wait.
We will finally have an actual historian and expert, so you guys can just like stop busting our balls about it. And it's like, okay, cool. We'll have Eric on. Eric can correct all of our mistakes.
And they're numerous, and I'm sure. I can't wait until the show drops on a Friday, and by Saturday I'm going to get, here's all the shit you got wrong. And it's like, I'm sure we did. I'm sure we did, and I'm sorry if that's the podcast you're looking for, but all these people that leave positive comments, the ones I mentioned and the hundreds other that haven't, or that I forgot to mention tonight, they're just going on this ride with us and rediscovering the discography of this amazing band. And that's what I dig. That's what I love. And for all those people, God bless you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for following along. And if you're looking for, facts, and in particular, if you're looking for two people that get shit right, you're on the wrong show.
It's like, we're not here for that. We're here for just
that's not our job,
fans. No, it's not. We didn't sign up to be historians. That would be cool, but that's not what we're doing. We're just here for the fun. But I can't wait for Saturday when people people type in and send messages about what we got wrong. It's like, here's the true meaning of me wise magic. It's like, you idiots. Like, thank you. Yes. And when you do that, please tweet at us at CD Morissette. That's where we read it.
No. If you got complaints, send it to at John Mariano NY. Let him know because he needs more action on Twitter. He's the one that cult is growing. I swear to God.
I take it back. Send your complaints to at John Mariano NY. He will happily listen to your complaints, and he will help you get through them. That's what he's there for. And he does need the extra traffic. But if you want to leave some nice stuff, no complaints, or just to let us know that we're doing a good job and you're right there with us, first of all, thank you. And hit us up at Mark the Bat. That's me on Twitter and Instagrams, at CD Morissette. That's Corey. We're there. And once again, at Podcast Will Rock on Twitter. That's where you can find us. And you can always find us on the website as well. Find your merch, leave us a comment, leave us a message, share with your friends, let them know what's going on, because the world is full of Van Halen fans just like us. Most of them not historians either, just fans, and we appreciate you. We are here for you. That is who this show is for. We're here for you. We are, and the podcast will rock, and we will rock you later.